This
group here.
conference
Looks
will
like we
now be
have
recorded.
at least 30 people on right now. This is terrific. We're grateful for a good audience, and we hope that we can explain this Rural County Grant Program Application Part A to you well enough that will help you to get through the process of making your first application this year. We will do a little rundown of the program, very, very short, because we've offered this up on a number of occasions, but we'll give you the very basics. The grant purpose of the Rural County Grant is to address the economic development needs of rural counties, which may include these three things: business, recruitment, development, and expansion, workforce training and development, and infrastructure, industrial building development, and capital facilities improvements for business development. This is a broad description of how counties can use and should be using their economic development funds through Part A and Part B. Essentially, we will only be addressing Part A today, the annual distribution, given that we have opened up the application as of Monday, June 1st. The Part A annual distribution is grant funding up to and including $200,000 annually, distributed equally to each qualifying rural county. Those rural counties that qualify will be those of the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th class counties. The basic qualifications for Part A are that the rural county must form and have a functioning County Economic Development Advisory Board. We call it a CED board. A formal application must be submitted, and that's what we'll be talking about here today. And the application must include a description of anticipated economic development projects and activities that consider the advice and the recommendation of the CED board that has been formed in the county. We've sent out instructions on gave, we hope, clear instructions about how a CED board is to be formed. And with those instructions, if there are any questions that need to come back to us with regard to that, please contact me, contact Nan, so that we can address any concerns you might have about the formation of your board. That is the key element to qualifying for Part A funds. That board needs to be duly formed. And when we get through this application, you'll see what we will be requiring as proof that the board has been formed. Many of you, those who are economic development directors, those who are county commissioners or have some administrative responsibilities in the county, have received an email, and that email invites you to enter our system, this portal, for entering an application. Now, there may be some confusion, and that's why we bring up this slide and the next, so that we make sure that you go to the right places in order to get to the application. So you'll see on this slide that we have two areas circled in red, marked in red. Those are the two options for you. That's where we need you to go, either to My Applications across the bars on the top, or to the update button. Don't go to Apply and don't go to Review. Please go to Update or My Application. When you do so, then you'll have a new screen, and it'll say My Applications, and your application, which has been registered to your county specifically and to those who are associated with this application in that county, will be down here. The application ID is not a general application, it's an application directed to your county. So you will see this in the list. It is Rural County Program Part A, and you will then follow this button here, which is an edit button. And if you will enter in through the edit button, then you will be able to access the application. Let's get into the application here. I'm going to bring it up here, and we're going to go through step by step. This one says Beaver County. I am kind of sneaking in through the Beaver County government application. Of course, we won't do anything in this application as we explain it, because we're going to leave that to Beaver County to fill out. But we're going to use this as an example. So as we go along, if you formulate any questions, again, please enter them into the chat box. We'll address them after the end of the presentation. Right now, we'll go step by step through each section of the application. First section is number 1, the overview. The overview is essentially a copy or a part of the copy of the first page of your program, Rural County Grant Program documentation that you previously received. So it's an introduction to the law that created the grant program, when it becomes effective, who will administer it, who will oversee it, who qualifies, and then again, you'll see a repeat of these 3 broad descriptions of economic development activities and programs that your county should be involved in, and a description of how much funding is available, and the 2 parts. Now, again, we won't be talking about the Part B as an application this time. I will only mention that Part B will be coming down the road in the coming months. We intend to release Part B applications with its own set of instructions and all of the requirements for qualification in the competitive award of this grant. But just be looking forward to that, and we will get into the details of that in the coming months. So we want to concentrate on Part A application only today. Once you've seen the introduction tab, just click on next, and it'll take you to the next section. And that section will be the organizational information that we need from you. First question is, what county are you in? And what you will do, of course, is click a drop-down box and click on the appropriate county. If you don't see your county here, that means that you shouldn't have this application. Basically, all of those who are qualifying counties for this program are listed here. We expect that you will choose the correct county, of course, the one that you represent. We need your mailing street address, the mailing city, the mailing zip code. And then in question 5, we're looking for your primary contact's first name and last name, and then the title. Now, as an explanation, the primary contact is going to be the person that we contact first with regard to any interaction we need to have with the county regarding this grant. So if that happens to be the city administrator or the economic development director or a county commissioner or council member, whoever you designate as the primary contact will be the one who receives the first phone call or the emails regarding any business that we have to do with this grant. So make sure that you, yes.
James, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we do have a question before you go much further. The question is, can you clarify the maximum a county can receive across Part A and B? $200,000 in Part A and in Part B for a total maximum of $1 million in a given year?
No, for a total maximum of $800,000 in any given year. So that means if you get $200,000 in Part A, which you're entitled to, Part B's maximum if you were to be awarded that, would be $600,000.
Okay, so again, Part A is at a $200,000 level, and then Part B would be maximized should the county be successful. Part B would be maximized at $600,000 for an available total of $800,000.
That's correct.
Great, thank you.
Sure. Thank you for the question, and we can clarify that a little bit. All of that is in statute and in the program documentation as well, but I know that there probably was some confusion about that. Just also know that the Part B grant is competitive, which means that all 24 counties will be competing for the same pool of funds, which means that you may not be awarded all $600,000. The discretion of funding is for the Governor's Rural Partnership Board to decide after review of Part B applications and projects and activities that will be presented in each application. So there is a chance, but if you've got multiple counties competing for the same $3 million, you can see pretty quickly that 24 counties doesn't add up to $600,000 a piece for Part B if there's only $3.6 million. We'll get into that at a later date, but I'm grateful that we could clarify that question here. Primary contact again, that person who in your county is going to be responsible for this grant, we would like to see as the primary contact here listed. And the email, of course, and the phone number. Then we will ask you for a secondary contact. This is the second person we would be contacting regarding any issue or question about this grant. So make sure that in this space, first name, last name, title, email, and phone number will be the person that you would like as a follow-up or a backup for your grant. This last question in this section is question number 15, Part A, grant funding amount request. In this space, you're going to enter how much you're asking for. Now, the law allows you to get up to and including $200,000. I suppose that there might be a chance that some county may say, well, we don't have a use for all of that yet. We may only want $100,000 or $150,000. You're entitled to ask for whatever you want up to and including $200,000 in this space. As I've been instructed, when you are finished with each section, you can just push next and everything is supposed to save. But if there is any challenge that you feel like you want to avoid, you are also welcome to save and then go to next. But as we go to next, it should save everything that you've already entered in that space. So if we go to next, we're going to go to the next section, which is supporting documentation. We ask you to select files and then upload files in each one of these questions. First one will be your county organization's W-9 form. We need to have these W-9 forms on file because this is the method whereby the finance department delivers funds. If we don't have this W-9 form, you're likely not going to get paid. Question 17, resolution. We will need the resolution that establishes the County Economic Development Advisory Board. We need the minutes from the county meeting in which the resolution was discussed and voted upon. And then question 19, we need a list of the names of individuals that have been appointed to the Economic Development Advisory Board. Those are all of the uploads in this case. This proves to us, these documents prove to us that your CED board has been formed and officially formed, which is the foundational requirement to receiving grant funds under Part A. We'll push next and go to our next section, which is the scope of work. We've presented 3 questions here just as prompts. Essentially, we hope that you could use these to drive your thought processes as you enter in your description of your scope of work. In other words, what are you going to do with $200,000 in your county? And what are your goals and so forth. So this is a robust field. You can enter everything into the scope of work simply by typing it here in this space. You've got editing tools up here to emphasize, to punctuate, and do anything you highlight or bold, anything you'd like, even add a link if you need to, add links or photographs. You could also copy and paste something into this and then edit into this space as well. But here's maybe some fundamental questions that we're asking here with the scope of work. What type of work will be done? How will your projects and activities be completed? Give us a description of your economic development goals and benchmarks with this funding that you'll receive from the state. Now, there's been a lot of questions about why do we even need to do this for you? Why do we need to tell you what we're going to do with the money? This, according to the state, is supposed to come to us and we can do with whatever we want with it. Well, the case is we have the 3 broad general standards for economic development activities that's been described in the statute. And also, we expect to have to, and we know we have to as GOED, but you will also have to report back to us annually what you have done with the funds. And the scope of work helps us to identify that you have been in consultation with your CED board. You've talked about your projects and activities as a county commission or council, and you've made some decisions about what the proper use of these funds with regard to economic development in your county. So if you can spell this out for us, then it'll make it easier, not only for me on reporting to the state the use of these funds across the state, but also for you to report to me as to what has been done. So that's important to us. So look at this as an exercise in planning and preparation, but also as an exercise in prepping yourself for the day when you need to make a report back to the state. Save that, go to next. And we have deliverables and outcomes. Again, we have some prompting questions here. Hopefully that you will say this is what what our economic development projects and activities will look like when they are completed. This is some foresight, hopefully some projection into what you hope to accomplish with your projects and activities. For example, what populations or industry sectors will you affect? Has there been business growth? Has there been job creation opportunities? And again, right here, we've repeated the 3 things that are in the state statute. Have you used this fund, or will you be using this fund to accomplish business recruitment, development, and expansion, workforce training and development, and or infrastructure and capital facilities improvements for business development? In this space, then, again, robust text where you can enter into this space a narrative and tell us what your deliverables and outcomes are expected to be with your $200,000 a year. Again, this will make it easier on the back end. If you tell us up front what you expect to accomplish, it'll be easier on the back end when you make your report. And by the way, all reports will be due September, no later than September 1 of each year. It'll make it easier for you to report to us that you have accomplished what you set out to do with your economic development activities. As we go to the next section, you'll see that we are requesting a budget. In this case, we hope that you will put in a description here, a narrative as to what you anticipate doing with the budget. But that budget will be also itemized. And so this in this space where it says budget narrative is a description of what you anticipate spending money on. But we have up here a link. I'm going to open this link. It's an Excel template. And the instruction is this. You open that up, you'll see it like this, and it looks like a Word document in this, as you see it on the screen here. But you will need to download it. And as it downloads into an Excel document. So we will need you to download it, edit it, and then save it and upload it back into the application. So this budget will, let me explain this worksheet for you, this spreadsheet for you. You will see that it already has some numbers in it and the words example 2 over here. So they're there as an example to you. And let's run down the examples. First of all, you'll put your entity name in here and the fiscal year in which you will be applying for. But let's say, for example, that one of your activities is business expansion and retention, much like what we've done over the years with BEAR, where you would do a program of outreach to businesses, to visit them, to interview them, find out what their needs are, find out if you can connect resources to those needs. So BEAR activities as an example. And you estimate for us how much you think that will cost. In this case, in this example, we have $15,000, and we think it'll cost about $3,000 to administer for a grand total of this project of $18,000. In the next example, say, for example, you have a smaller project, an economic development summit or something like that. I'm just throwing out examples. Could be any other thing that your CED board and the commission could conceive with regard to economic development. Let's say that next activity is estimated to have a cost of $4,000. You would put that there. How much will it cost to administer? Say $500 for a grand total of $4,500. You can see that those things are adding up. This column will calculate against the addition of these two columns for a grand total, running total down here. You can see that so far we've got 2 activities that at an expense of an estimated $22,500. Now in this next section here, we're going to ask that you consider the amount of funding that you do have in your grant. In other words, for example, activity number 1, how much of the grant, the $200,000, will you use to do this activity? Say, for example, you designate $9,000 for that first activity or that project. In the second one, say you put aside from your grant funds $4,500. In this other column, we have matching contribution. Now, I want to make it very clear And we'll field any questions about this as we can, but I hope that this is very clear that this year, and only this year alone, Part A does not require the county to contribute matching funds. That's the note here in this instruction here. However, in subsequent years, matching funds will be required. Here are the levels of matching funds for Part A and for Part B that will be applied to you in the future. So what you've got is 10% match in a county of 6th class, 20% for 5th class, 30% for 4th class, 40% for a county of the 3rd class. All right, so this year and this year only, you don't have to put any numbers over here. But as we use this form next year, you will have to put in a contribution amount to equal the size or classification of your county. In other words, 10% for a county of the 6th class is going to have to enter in these columns, or in this column, the matching contribution against the activity, and it will calculate up here how you're doing with that until you hit your 10%. Being in the case of the 6th class county. So that'll calculate here. We will be able to see what you're going to spend from your 200,000 here and what your matching contribution might be here. Now, as I said, it's not required this year, but of course, if you're having these activities and you know that your $200,000 overall is not going to cover it, then the rest of what you do in spending on these activities will then be entered here in the matching contribution. You can enter something in this grand total over here of the grant fund and match will tally up here, and on the bottom it'll tally here. So what we anticipate seeing is that your estimated total here and your grant fund and match total will be exactly the same. Okay.
James?
So we come, yeah.
Sorry, may I interrupt you?
Of course.
Couple of questions are coming up that it might be good to address right now. So do staff costs or administrative costs count towards the match contributions?
Of course. Yes, the answer is yes. But we're not going to tell you no either. So what you will, I just want to maybe throw this out. To absorb your full $200,000 in administrative costs for economic development would probably not bode well for you on the reporting end or seeking out further and future rural county grants. Okay, so what we essentially want to see is that you do an activity or a project. Of course, there will be administrative costs. And yes, you can say, we have an economic development director that is doing this, this, and this for us. Or there are other administrative costs or marketing costs or whatever they may be that can be absorbed in this column. Remembering, hopefully, that your $200,000 needs to stretch as far as you can make it so that a real effect on economic development occurs. Hopefully that's a helpful answer.
Right, thank you. Another question, when are the applications live and when will they be due?
Applications are already live. You should have received the message from GoEd to enter into the portal. They were open on Monday. So be sorting through your emails to make sure that you find the link that we gave to you to enter into the portal.
Right.
The application will be open We have in the instructions we put down there June 19th as a deadline. We are only offering that up as a very soft, and we should say very, very soft deadline. You will not be cut off if you don't have an application in by the 19th. In fact, we'll probably keep it open because really what we would love for you to do is have your boards not only just formed, but that you will have already had meetings that advise and help the commission in making some decisions about their plans over this next fiscal year. The intention behind opening on June 1 and having a very soft closing and allowing you to apply when you're ready is to help you deliver funds to you as soon as possible. In other words, if you fill out this application within the next 2 weeks, we hope to have your funding by July. If you decide that you want to wait and have a couple of meetings with your CED board and counsel with the commissions and so forth before you make an application, make some decisions about the activities that you're going to do, and we don't see your application until July 1, that's fine too. It will still be open. We just want to be able to deliver on the fiscal year the funding that you're entitled to from the state as soon as possible.
So, James, a couple more questions here. Several folks have noted that they received the email from you explaining the application, but they have not yet received a link to the application or the portal itself.
Okay, that would not have come, that portion would not have come from me. And I believe we have Kristen Jensen on the call. Perhaps she can inform us as to the address they need to be looking for.
I am here, and I have to apologize. One of the attendees said that it came from ComRent. I'm actually reusing the ComRent portal, so I didn't get my emails cleaned up. But it's do not reply GoEd ComRent, I think is what it says it's coming from. But the subject line is your GoEd business portal username and password. And I can reset that as well, so a new email will come through. And I'm going to figure out where that from email address is and get that fixed. But those that have already been sent out appear to come from GoEd's ComRent.
Okay, yeah, so there might be some clarity that we'll make for within the day, I assume next 24 hours, Kristen?
Yeah, but it won't change the emails that you've already received.
Okay, very good.
So
thank you so
Kristen,
much.
Another question for you. Someone points out that they can access the portal, but they only have access to the COVID Commercial Rental Assistance Program.
So they have to click on the applications, either the My Applications across the top or update the big bubble in the middle. The reason is that we've already created the application for you, so you don't need to go to the I want to apply. Your application is already in draft and ready for you.
So that's where we attempted to explain to you up front to go to either the update button or the My Applications button. Do not go to the apply button. Okay, go to the update button and then enter into the Part A application. If you go to the apply button, it's going to take you to a different application that is not this application.
Great,
so
thank you.
I will put those back up on the screen when we're done with this part to walk through that again to make sure that you know what button to push. Make sure that you go through the right entry portal. Okay, so I'm going to take down this budget example. Hopefully, if you have any questions, feel free to ask any questions. We'll proceed with our presentation. Are we all right to do that, Nan?
Hey,
Yes.
James, this is Ryan. Nan, may I just add one quick thing? I know we've had some questions about funding for this program, and it's not a secret that legislative funds are being cut. The legislature has asked that go and look at a lot of our programs and make some cut recommendations. The legislature also has put a freeze on all new spending and new programs. So not to scare anybody, but we've been working really tirelessly with the bill sponsor and with the Executive Appropriations Committee and all parties to make sure that this funding is restored and is in place. So there is a possibility that the funding does not kick in. Although we feel confident, we're doing everything we can to make sure that it does happen. James just a minute ago had mentioned that, you know, the earlier you apply, perhaps the earlier you can get the funding, and that is true, except in the event that either funding gets postponed or cut altogether. So we'll keep you posted, but our goal is to just make sure that everybody applies as if the funding is going to be there, and then we can pivot as needed. So just wanted to clarify and add that.
Thank you, Ryan. There is some uncertainty, as you all well know, with all budgets, business budgets and government budgets, and we're no different here in the state. It had been requested of GOED and all other government departments to offer scenarios under budget cuts. And as Ryan explained, this is a possibility. So again, we anticipate that it'll come through. We want you to apply as if it will come through. And hopefully everything will go well so that we can deliver these funds to you in this fiscal year.
A couple more questions, if I might.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Someone says, question about how many people per county generally receive the link. And I believe it was only sent to one person. Is that correct, James?
No, it was sent to all county commissioners and to all county EDs.
Great. And another question comes from the private sector. And this program, the Rural County Grant, is not available directly to the private sector. This is exclusively for counties, and then counties will work with communities and the private sector as they make their decisions on projects and the application. And a couple more. Does the match for next year have to come from the county, or can it be paid by a city or the private sector?
In your program documentation that we sent to you, there is a full description of what is an appropriate match. I can pull up that page and let's, can I do that at the end?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. We'll pull up that page because it's on a separate document. If I get out of my groove here, apologize, and pull up a document that is I'm not prepared with, already open, then I don't want to mess everything else up. So let's go through let's finish this out, and we'll pull up that document and try to address any other questions there as well. So
thank you.
Excel template's been downloaded, you filled it out, and you've then put in your budget narrative, and now you would go and choose your file and upload your saved Excel spreadsheet, okay, as a budget. Once you've done that, we'll go to the next page. This is the grant agreement. What we have decided to do this under Grant Part A is to not generate contracts. We will generate contracts because parameters around qualification on Part B will be significantly different than this. So under Part A, as opposed to having a contract that goes through signatures, your signature on this application will enter you into an agreement, and that will be your legally binding documentation here. The agreement says, by submitting this application and accepting Part A grant money for fiscal year 2021, the county acknowledges that future grant funding for Part A will be contingent on the county's timely reporting as required under code, the Utah code, and the demonstration of the tender of matching funds in the amount required by the Utah code. If the county fails to comply with any law applicable to the issuance of this grant money or makes any misrepresentation in this application, the state may, in its sole discretion, deny this application or future applications submitted by the county. So the agreement is really future, looking into the future. If you agree to this application and the parameters that build this program, then you will expect to do your timely reporting and next year tender a match for us. And you will want to say yes or no to your agreement. Yes, we'll verify that we enter into an agreement. Then the responsible party will put in their name, attesting that everything is true here and that you agree to it. And then we will go to the next field. And this is the final field. And it is a review and the status of the application. You'll see here across on the left side, red X's or red check marks. That means that answers the questions to required questions, answers to required questions have not been completed. So obviously we didn't fill anything out in here. So we see a bunch of red X's and check marks. Those will go away or turn green if we know that you have completed it, if you know. And of course we can't submit an application if we don't have the green light. Now the feature here is to say, okay, wait a second, let's see, I didn't choose the county. I didn't fill out that point. It's showing me a red X. If you'll just go to that and there's a link to it, you can click on it. It'll take you back to that question that you did not answer. You can answer it and then move forward. Coming back to that section, slip down through here. So you know that if you see a red X or a red check mark, that means that's a required field. You must answer the question. Click the hyperlink back to that portion of the form and answer the question. And when you have done that, filled out your scope of work, your deliverables, your budget, and your agreement, then you can choose submit your funding application and we will receive it. Is there any questions about this form?
Yes, a couple. So when you say year, are you referring to the state's July to June fiscal year?
Yes.
Great. Okay, I've got a couple of other questions, but I'm thinking they can wait until the end.
Okay. Well, great. That's essentially all we have on the application itself. I wanted to pull up this PowerPoint again for you, just to perhaps we can walk through this again. When you find that email that came from Kristen, we want you to pay attention to going to either of these two spaces, the My Application box or the Update box. Please do not go to the Apply or the Review box. Go to the Update box or My Application. And then once you're there, you'll identify that this is an application for the Rural County Grant Part A, and you will choose the Edit button. That will enter you into this application portal to edit it, fill it out, complete it. Kristen, is there more that we need to say about that, about this instruction?
Not that I can think of. I mean, we probably need to help some people find the email, and I can reset some passwords. if anybody, I'm happy to do this. If anybody, like one person for sure needs to have the username and the password, let me know and I can reset your password and make sure you get it done. We cast a pretty broad net to everybody who might possibly want to work on this, and we don't need to force everybody into the portal. So if you're the one that's assigned to take care of this application, you're welcome to contact me directly, kjensen@utah.gov, and I'll make sure we can get you hooked up with the portal account that you need.
Thank you. And just a point of clarity, even though we've sent out probably 50 or 60 emails, we only want one application. Please only send us one application from your county. So please get together in your county organization as a commission, as your newly formed CED board, and decide who is going to be responsible, the one person or the two people, the primary and the secondary contact, who will be responsible for submitting this application. I need to explain the system that we're using just very, very generally. This is run through Salesforce. This is a CRM that allows us to compile accounts and communicate with those accounts and monitor applications and records of all kinds and all sorts. And so your application will live in Salesforce for us. Our communication will come to you through Salesforce. Our future reporting for Part A and Part B will go through Salesforce. And so that we are compiling everything in the same place in one location, so that when the governor's Office of Management and Budget asks for their annual report, we will be able to pull it right out of Salesforce and deliver it to them, rather than trying to find cross departments and cross counties and cross different CRMs. A system of compiling everything will be in Salesforce for us. This will be a benefit to us. It'll be a benefit to you as well. Any further question? And I will pull up the program documentation to answer any of those other questions.
There's a rather general question that has come up. Could we spend some time talking through some examples of how funds can and cannot be used?
Sure. Let me get to our document and hopefully you'll be able to see it. Good, there it is. All right. Okay, so the general answer for you is that you're in charge of your economic development funds from the state. These are the written in statute 3 broad descriptions of how your grant may be used. You may use it for, let me make that larger. Hopefully we can see that so that everybody can see it better. Okay. Business recruitment, development and expansion, workforce training and development, infrastructure and capital, facilities improvement for business development. I want to emphasize that, okay? So if you, as a county, can justify with the advice of your CED board that your activity is fits within this broad structure as it is written into the statute, and you can justify it with us, then you can do it. Okay. Now, I would probably, let me throw out a scenario. Say, for example, you say, okay, wow, we got $200,000 from the state this year. Let's build a municipal pool in such and such town. That may not be related to economic development. You would have to probably take a great big giant leap to convince us that that's an economic development activity that's going to affect business growth, workforce development, and business recruitment. On the other hand, you're in charge of your funds. Let's drop down here. I think there was some other question about the match. What was the question about the match? Oh, it was about how, what can we do what can be used as a match? Okay, so on this page here, we have a description. And again, this is straight out of state statute. This is the law. And this is what they've given us, okay? You can use redevelopment agency funds. You can use community development and renewal agency funds. You can use private sector, nonprofit contributions, federal matching grants, county or municipal general fund match, or even in-kind matches if you can justify them. So relatively broad with regard to your match. The language in the bill actually says any combination of. Now, my interpretation of any combination would be 2 or more of these. But I don't know that that's such a strict interpretation that if you say our contribution is solely or strictly coming from our redevelopment agency, that you would be denied. Is there any other question about that?
So James, maybe a reiteration that there is no match required for Part A this very first year.
That's correct. This year and this year only. In fact, it does say this right here. For the initial Part A grant offering, there will be no matching funds or reporting requirements by the applying rural county. However, beginning in 2021, in other words, we're talking about next year, and in subsequent years, a rural county may not receive an additional rural county grant Part A or Part B for that matter, unless the county offers a match, okay? This year, no match. Next year, must be matched.
Great. Let me buzz through the rest of these questions here. I'm not seeing any questions that I haven't either addressed in the chat box. Oh, here comes one. How do we find out which class of county the state currently recognizes us?
That's still by population as spelled out in state statute. We know that there was some delay on changing county classifications this past year because of the census year. We wanted to see an official census of population come out. And as that wraps up this year, classifications may very well change next year. Now, the only other option of retaining your classification is going to be if the state decides to change the population parameters. So the worst case scenario here, frankly, the biggest challenge to any one single county at this juncture really is with third class counties, and most particularly with Cache County, which by all intents and purposes, by estimates of population, current populations, they've already exceeded the population level of the third class. Now, we haven't officially designated that by the state because we've been waiting for the census to be completed. But if the state does not change that 131,000 population level, this might be the only year that Cache County can receive these funds. So we'll see how it goes next year. Take advantage of it while you can get it. And there's some jumping around here between fourth class and third class based on population. Again, there will be a couple of that may slip into that third class range. Now, I don't have a list of those populations in front of me. We can find that for you, but it's also in state statute.
Great, thank you.
Seems like there was a question about Part B fund use. Maybe we addressed it, but I'm not sure. Did we satisfy your questions about Part B, although we're not covering everything on Part B today?
Right, and also just to follow up, again, we will be sending out a PDF of the form itself as well as all of the documents included. So look for that. Also, there's a note that the document, the program description document that you're looking at, James, we need to resend out the latest version of that. So we'll be following up this webinar again to all of the counties, the county economic development directors, as well as the commissioners. The PDF, the latest version of the PDF Rural County Grant Program, and also the Salesforce application and process. And again, we've recorded this. We'll be placing that as well as James' PowerPoint on our website.
Very good, thank you all.
Last call for questions. Well, we're not seeming to get any in the chat box, James, so you did a fantastic job. Thank you so much. Please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us. Rebecca Dilge for the northern section of the state. I'm Nan Anderson. I work with the southern portion of the state. James Dixon, of course, is our program administrator. Any of us are willing to help any of you with your questions on this brand new program. Again, we'll be following up with emails as well as placing information on the website. So with that, unless again, a last minute question, doesn't look like it. Thank you everyone for your participation and we appreciate it. Have a great day.